Welcome back to Open Source. I'm here with Juwon the Techie. Let's talk emotions. I know that's a bit maybe unconventional for a tech show, but I do think that so it's maybe a bit depressing. But there was a stat I read where as the unemployment rate increases, the suicide rate increases. Right? It's a really a thing that we need to talk about. What kind of emotional impact does a recession have on job seekers?
Oh, I don't think it's weird at all to talk about that because a lot of the time, one of the things that I heard the CEO talk about once is like, whenever we have to do a layoff, that's not a reflection on the people that we're laying off. That's a reflection on us. And
Mhm.
my thought process in that is, well, if that's a reflection on you, then why are the average people taking the impact of it? Why don't you
Mhm.
take your salary down to $1 and let everybody else benefit? But we know that's not how the world works. I'm just being
Mhm.
naive.
Mhm.
So going back to it, like these are real lives. People have mortgages. They have kids in schools that they're paying for. They have families that depend on them. And when, whether it's economic or like, managers making certain decisions a certain way, these have real impact on people. And I'll share my own personal story. I didn't, the first job that I had in maybe 8 years, I didn't seek employment. I just became an entrepreneur. Why? Because I didn't like dealing with the emotional struggle of being rejected. Like, I know what I'm capable of. I know the skills I built to the table. And then to get those rejection emails pile up or do interviews and then hear, sorry, we're not moving forward, it just took such a toll on me. Right. So I said, you know
Mhm.
what? I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go build on my own. So but I had the ability to do that, and I had the flexibility to be able to do that. That's not a lot of people. And when your hopes, aspirations rely on that, then it could be very, very difficult.
Look, and I really do appreciate that you're willing to talk about this because I don't think everyone is. It's a very vulnerable thing, and I appreciate you sharing your own story. So, we've got a lot of people who are going to be looking for guidance, especially when they're going to watch this episode in particular. Do you have any suggestions on ways job seekers can sort of like modify their emotional approach in this job climate?
First of all, is I'll say like I never want to seek to minimize anybody's emotions, right? Like whatever you feel is valid, and seek help when you need to. Lean on your community, lean on your network. Understand that a job doesn't define you, right? I think that's the key message there. So between my last role and my current role, I thought it was actually 4 months, but I recently realized it was 6 months. That between that contract and getting this new job, it took me 6 months to find other opportunities. I did over 10, 10 to 12 interviews. I applied to over 3,000 jobs
What?
just for me to get here. And I think one of the things that helped me do that, that was actually when I started my podcast. So I was in a space where I needed help. I was in a space where I needed comfort. But I realized that the best way for me to do that was to rise beyond that occasion, was to rise beyond that thought process, to become hope for other people who were seeking hope at the same time. And I realized that that really helped me navigate that because speaking to successful people on my podcast, talking about their struggles, their challenges, the things they went through, that really helped me put in perspective to understand that I wasn't alone. Like this wasn't a unique experience, and that, getting rejection emails doesn't make me a failure.
Look, it's great that you really do come from a place of authenticity. It really lands, and I think job seekers need that. So, what do you think job seekers can expect emotionally? Like, do you think it's going to be this thing like 3,000 job applications and people are fighting against their own sadness and like what are we going to see?
It's rough, and I think it's gonna be rough, right? And that's not trying to be like a Debbie Downer or to create, this sad or gloomy face. But I think if you expect it to not be rosy, I think you're more prepared to deal with it. And the way to kind of like think around it is like everybody knows themselves. Everybody knows how to navigate strife, struggle and things like that. So figure out how to do it. Sometimes it might be going hard and just saying, you know what, I want to put in all these applications. I want to study this course. Sometimes it's like disconnecting for a whole week and go connect with nature or read a book or something, whatever works for you. Understanding again, ultimately is like you're extremely valuable as a human being, and your skills and your ideas are valuable. The fact that one job doesn't see it or there's competition out there does not change the value. Somebody said if you crumple $20 bill and throw it down and do all of that stuff to it, it's still a $20 bill at the end of the
Right.
day. And I think people need to have that perspective.
Look, Jawan, I really appreciate the value you bring. You help so many people. Happy to have you. Juwon the Techie on open source.